Greetings, Moors. This is Brother Bakari Bay coming to you from northwest of Mexham, and I've been away for a while. I'm not really um, big on doing videos. It's not how I got started doing videos, and nothing's changed. But because of the importance of this video to me, I had to, come out here and do this. And it's also something that I can do myself, express my own words, my own thoughts. Also, this video is not going to require anyone to not have children around, so there will be no profanity laced videos here. Let's see. Also, we're going to do a little disclaimer. It is not my intent to call names, agitate, start debates, because I don't debate. I have a lot of questions, but this video is specifically for looking at definitions for counsel and consular court and asking questions. Because it's things that I just don't know, and also any Asiatic should be concerned about asking questions. We have a particular history on this planet. And whether you refer to yourself as black or Moor or white or European or French or whatever nationality you go by, whether you're down under Australia, so-called Australia, whether you're operating in a national capacity or quasi-national, or you're a citizen and you're working for a corporation. All I'm doing here is I'm looking at these definitions and I'm asking questions, because I comprehend that things are supposed to function in a certain kind of way based on me being a Moor, our history, things that work, our tradition, our creed, etc., things like that. All of these things require us to move in a certain way, whether it's private or it's out in the public. And when you have things that occur like this, you must ask questions. So let's just get right into it. So the first thing that we're going to look at here is caveat emptor. For many of you who aren't familiar with the translation, it means buyer beware. And if you read the words, it says, Moors are men upright, independent, and fearless, who care for their loved ones and follow the prophet to a destiny which is not uncertain nor unknown. They are fortified by the impregnable doctrine built upon love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. It is therefore folly at its greatest height for smelly culprits with their insidious plans to invade such a realm. They try and try, but their own bad planning brings down wrath upon their heads, like the sword old Damocles had. Intrigue and scurrilous cunnings find a difficult path to travel within the ranks of Moors. This is so because the Moorish movement has been well planned by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, whose latent powers are abundant, unknown, and may be called into action as a matter of defense at any moment. There are 3 other paragraphs that you can read, and it's very, very specific. And so again, as I started saying, we all have plenty of reason to beware. Whether it's the black community, any of these communities, all of them have had issues with people from within their own ranks doing things that are outside the laws, the culture, the creed. It lets you know that you have the right to ask a question, that you have the right to share your concerns, and you should be expecting, because it's part of the duty. So if any grand sheik or any leader, any so-called Moorish leader, or any leader, period, regardless of whether you're Moors or you're Christians, and you have questions as as a man, as a woman, and you have a question, and they give you static, you have a problem that needs to be dealt with immediately. And so Moors, if we don't deal with these issues, and if we don't start asking questions and using our brains, they said study, study, study. We are the reason that we are going to be perpetually in this type of situation. Now let's go into our first definition, and that is going to be consul. Very, very important that we look at these definitions. You can't make decisions without doing your due diligence. Certainly, I would like to look at more ancient or older definitions, or even if consul was ever used in any Moorish capacity, whether it was under Saracen, or whether it was under Phoenician, whether it was under Canaanite, Moabite, or even Atlantean. I don't care. If what I'm trying to determine here, has there ever been a time when Moors who were practicing Islam, I, self-law, and master, and all of the wonderful other sciences that fall under that umbrella, for making oneself a better man and a better woman, then I need to be taught that. I need to be able to read that. So please, if anyone has that information, please forward it to me at your earliest possible convenience. But again, so here we are, and this video is just a quick brief. So this is from Bing.com. An official appointed by government to live in a foreign city and protect and promote government's citizens and interests there. In ancient Rome, one of the two annually elected chief magistrates who jointly ruled the republic. Any of the three chief magistrates of the First French Republic from 1799 to 1804. It is synonymous with ambassador, diplomat, something that I cannot pronounce, attaché, envoy, emissary, plenipotentiary, consul general, and legat, or legate. I'm going to say legat. Sounds French. And so I would have you please pay particular attention to ancient Rome, an official, foreign city, to live in a foreign city and protect and promote government's citizens and interests there. So I would say make sure that you take note. Now, some of these definitions rather are pretty much the same, but here's another one from Merriam-Webster.com that shows examples of consul from the web. In this particular definition, you'll note the word magistrates of Roman Republic. Either of two annually elected chief magistrates of the Roman Republic, one of the three chief magistrates of the French Republic from 1799 to 1804, an official appointed by a government to reside in a foreign country to represent the commercial interests of citizens of the appointing country. Moving on. Here we have one from Wikipedia. Consul was the title of one of the chief magistrates of the Roman Republic, and subsequently somewhat significant title under the Roman Empire. The title was used in other European city-states throughout antiquity and the Middle Ages, then revived in modern states, notably in the First French Republic. The relating adjective is consular from the consulatus, one of the three chief magistrates of the French Republic from 1799 to 1804. This usage contrasts with modern terminology, where a consul is a type of diplomat. Here we have one from, now I saved this one for the last. This one is from Henry, the Law Dictionary, compiled by Mr. Henry Campbell Black, and this is the second edition, page 256. In Roman law, during the Republic, the name consul was given to the chief executive magistrate, two of whom were chosen annually. The office was continued under the empire, but its powers and prerogatives were greatly reduced. The name is supposed to have been derived from consulo, to consult, because of these officers consulted with the Senate on administrative measures. Now, before I go to number 5, please note that it states the name consul was given to the chief executive magistrate. This is in Roman law, okay? And the office was continued under the empire, okay? All right, so now let's move on. In Old English law, and again, this is from Mr. Black's compilation in his Law Dictionary, the second edition, page 256. In Old English law, it states an ancient title of an earl. Okay? I say again, an ancient title of an earl. In international law, an officer of a commercial character appointed by the different states to watch over the mercantile interests of the appointing state and of its subjects in foreign countries. There are usually a number of consuls in every maritime country, and there are usually subject to a chief consul who is called a consul general. Now, that's very, very specific. And it is because of these definitions that I am making this video. Consular court. This one is from the lawdictionary.org. A tribunal convened by public officials who reside in a foreign country to protect the interest of their country for the settlement of civil cases based upon situations that happened in the foreign nation, and which is held pursuant to authority granted by treaty. A consular court exercises criminal jurisdiction in some instances, but its determinations are reviewable by the courts of the home government. The last of the U.S. consular courts in Morocco was abolished in 1956. That's from the legal dictionary, thefreedictionary.com. So points of interest again is foreign country, a tribunal convened by public officials. So that means they were elected. Just some things for you to think about. And they're talking about settlement of civil cases based upon things that happened in the foreign nation, and which is held pursuant to authority granted by treaty. So I would need to know which treaties are going to be invoked. So, yeah. And so the next definition is from the lawdictionary.org, and again, most of these are pretty similar. I just want to make sure that there are certain points and certain words that are thought about. Here we go. Courts held by the consuls of one country within the territory of another, under authority given by treaty for the settlement of the civil cases between citizens of the country which the consul represents. Okay. In some instances, they have also a criminal jurisdiction, but in this respect are subject to review by the courts of the home government. Now, what is key in this one is citizens. So, again, when you talk about citizens and levels of status, that's not what the national would be referred to. Okay, based on the information that that I've digested. Okay, so all right, so now let's go down to the encyclopedia.com. I would just ask you to pay attention to some of these words like criminal jurisdiction, but its determinations are reviewed by the courts of the home government. So this is clearly telling you that once that consular court is up and running, regardless of what decisions it makes, the home government, whatever that home government may be, gets to make the decisions. So if that's the case, and the U.S. corporation is currently running the show, and the individuals who are a member of that corporation, the living bodies, are currently running the show. So you're saying that you're going to institute as a Moor that's already on a higher status, you're a national, now you're going to institute a court that was previously run and operated by individuals who were called citizens, and you're not operating under the status of a Moor. Why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense to me. And so this is what I would just think about as you move forward in looking at these definitions. Okay, here's the last one, and this is courts held by the consuls of one country within the territory of another. This is from Henry Campbell Black's dictionary, the second edition, again, page 256. And let me just start over here. Courts held by the consuls of one country within the territory of another, under authority given by treaty for the settlement of civil cases between citizens of the country which the consul represents. In some instances, they have also a criminal jurisdiction, but in this respect are subject to review by the courts of the home government. And then it says, see revived statutes, U.S. subsection 4083. So I would just ask, are there any sort of codes, statutes, policies, procedures that are already written that pertain to the U.S. government on consular courts, which whomever is talking about opening a consular court, are they expressing these things to you if they in fact are going to be opening a court that's going to be functioning under those particular statutes? See, these are questions that I'm asking and things that I want to know. But let's move on here. So our next definition is municipality. Municipality. And so it is very important. The reason why I chose this particular definition was because of I wanted to know, I want to ask, certainly there were definitions that used it before as it pertains to consular courts and such. So now, if that's in fact the case, if these things are going to be functioning in a municipality, then that means that they have a totally different jurisdiction than I, as a Moor, would be functioning in or out of. It would not apply to me. It's not for me. It doesn't match where I stand as an Aboriginal in terms of my bloodline and blood tie to the land. That position is held entirely by the nationals of the land. So municipality is a creation of Rome. That's a Roman venue. Okay, and so that's why I'm showing you this. And again, this is another reason why I'm making this video. Here we have a city, town, other district possessing corporate existence and usually its own local government, a community under municipal jurisdiction, the governing body of such a district or community. And here you go again. And so just take a look at that. Now, next thing is national. So as a national, I wouldn't consider doing that. I would consider establishing something with a Moorish title, a Moorish appellation. I'm just throwing that in there. Nationals operate in a different domicile than a citizen. Oh, speaking of domicile, here we go. We have three of them: national domicile, quasi-national domicile, and municipal domicile. All right. And these are all from Mr. Campbell Black's dictionary, 4th edition, and they're all page 573. Go take a look. Enjoy. National domicile. Domicile of a person considered as being within the territory of a particular nation and not with reference to a particular locality or subdivision of a nation. Okay, quasi-national domicile, one involving residence in a state. That's a key word. You enjoy looking up that. Residence. You say that you're a resident. Okay, all right. Well, you just said I'm part of the state. I'm part of the corporate state. If you're a resident of a state, then a state has a constitution as well. So you're saying that you're a resident, you're saying that you are involved in this. You need to really take a look at those definitions and, comprehend, what you're saying here. But my question is which is what I'll ask after I read municipal domicile. One which, as distinguished from national domicile and quasi-national domicile, has reference to residence in a country, township, or municipality. Okay, all righty. So we know that those different municipalities, those things that are called different counties or townships or what have you, there's a jurisdiction there that's specific. Okay, now you need to ask yourself, how does consular courts impact that domicile? Well, if a venue, a place has to function in a particular venue that has a particular jurisdiction. And so you can't say that you're going to run something that has a history of operating from outside of a national domicile and then expect people to just go along gullibly without asking questions. Moors, I'm sure that many of us are quite aware of status, jurisdiction, and or venue, and adjudication. Phases that affect how you're dealt with when you interface with people who are within your nation, when there's an injured party or there's some sort of conflict or some sort of problem that needs to be dealt with, and certainly when you interface with people who are not of your nation on your ancestral estate, there are certain things that they can't do by law because it's not their bloodline, it's not their ancestral estate. They need to go home and do that over there, wherever there may be. But you can't be the colonizer by law and on somebody else's land and tell them what to do. It doesn't work that way. What that's called is enslavement. That's called being a prisoner status after domination, being a prisoner of war on your own land. Essentially, that's what it boils down to. So, these are things that we need to think about. We need to focus, and we need to discuss, and we need to ask questions. And again, that's why I'm making this video. So let's just go over subject matter jurisdiction. That's under laws and facts. Personam jurisdiction. All involved. That's everybody. 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 Your side, my side. Who has personam jurisdiction? Territorial jurisdiction. Territories, land masses. Okay. And that entails control over events, individuals, persons, etc. over a specific geographical area. So if I'm a Moor and I consider myself as someone who comprehends the basic in terms of status, at a basic level, I would have to ask the question, again, after looking at those previous definitions on consular and consular courts, it would seem quite clearly that this is something that has been implemented by those who hold a different status, of a different bloodline, of a different nation, effectively functioning in many cases to do commerce, because you're now on somebody else's land, and so why would I do that on my ancestral estate when that was typically done by others who were doing it on another nation's land? Are you following me? So this, again, why I'm asking these questions. So let's move on here. I don't want to go over 1 hour. And I think now what we need to do here is quickly go over jurisdiction and venue. All right, so let's go over venue. Formerly spelled visne, V-I-S-N-E, in pleading and practice, a neighborhood, the neighborhood, place or county in which an injury is declared to have been done, or fact declared to have happened. Also, the county, geographical division, in which an action or a prosecution is brought for trial, and which is to furnish the panel of jurors. It relates only to place where a territory within which either party may require a case to be tried. It has relation to convenience of litigants and may be waived or laid by consent of parties. Okay, so now let's move on here quickly. Of course, if we're going to talk about venue, we must discuss jurisdiction. So let's talk about that real quick. So which jurisdiction, or what jurisdiction, are these things going to be falling under? And if I'm a Moorish national, I'm already of the mind that this doesn't, well, I don't want to get into my personal, this is about the facts here, but let's just move forward. The word is a term of large and comprehensive import and embraces every kind of judicial action. It is the authority by which courts and judicial officers take cognizance of and decide cases, the legal right by which judges exercise their authority. It exists when court has cognizance of class of cases involved, proper parties are present, and point to be decided is within issues. So that is very specific. You see how specific that is? And if you don't comprehend everything that I just stated and what it means, then you need to get with somebody who can break that down for you. And of course, there is more that I can expound on, but this is a short video. But essentially, you need to comprehend that everything that Moors will do, who are saying that they are acting on behalf of the masses, will be done in a specific jurisdiction. The question is whether or not that jurisdiction pertains to our status, is amicable, is in accordance, etc. Because if not, in many cases, you have just given up your birthrights. You have just denationalized yourself and stated that you are accepting a different jurisdiction to render judgment on a matter concerning you as a Moor. Now that's what I'm seeing here, and that's again why I'm asking this question: what jurisdiction will this consular court be functioning out of? And then, of course, we have adjudication. So let's take a look at that. Okay, this is where judgment is going to be rendered. So now I want to kind of tie this into one of the definitions of the consular court, because earlier it specifically mentioned that the overall ability to override and change a decision that's made by the foreign consular rests within the home government. The home government. Okay, so they have the ability, regardless of whatever the consul decides, to adjudicate the way that they see fit. And why wouldn't they? Because you would think they would, because a consul is, based on the definition, is someone who functions on somebody else's soil. He is not a national of the soil he is functioning on. You understand that? So, again, now let's move forward. Alrighty, so we're getting ready to wrap this up here real quick. I just want to bring in some other key points that I have been thinking about. I don't want to miss anything. And so I would like to ask about laws, and I want to know from the perspective of these individuals who are calling themselves counselors and say that they are counselors and consular generals, when they interface with the home government, number one, who are they telling us that the home government is, right? And what types of laws are they going to be making decisions on? And so I guess that would fall, I don't guess, I know that that would fall under their goals, under the authority that they have, and who's given them the authority to open a consular court. And so I would like them to answer that, because all of these things function in a specific jurisdiction. So that's another question. And so now let's just go ahead and, get into questions. And I want to know if you guys would like to share some of your questions as well. If so, please add them to the comments. If you have negative comments, you will not receive a reply and you will be blocked. It will be deleted. I don't do debates, and I'm not a keyboard warrior. I don't use profane language and all that sort of thing, and I don't do that. Okay, before we move on here quickly, let's look at the position of foreign and foreigners. Now, I've already showed you in the definitions where it states that the consul is essentially the foreigner operating on somebody else's land. Foreign. Of or from, in, or characteristics of a country or language other than one's own. Okay? Now let's go all the way down. There's definition from Webster and Henry Campbell Black and Bouvier's. Foreign, this is from 4th edition, Mr. Black's compilation, page 775. Belonging to another nation or country, belonging or attached to another jurisdiction. So you see, I'm not making this stuff up. You see that. Another jurisdiction, made, done, or rendered in another state or jurisdiction, subject to another territory, extrinsic, outside, extraordinary. And of course, foreigners, and this is from Bouvier's Law Dictionary, Volume 1, First American Edition, 1839, page 420. Foreigners, aliens, persons born in another country than whatever. I touched on status, jurisdiction, venue, and adjudication. So let's look at Mr. Campbell Black's Dictionary, 4th edition definition on page 1580. Standing, state, or condition, the legal relation of individual to rest of the community, the rights, duties, capacities, and incapacities which determine a person to a given class, a legal personal relationship not temporary in its nature, nor terminable at the mere will of parties with which third persons and the state are concerned. So that means it is specific. You have specific rights, duties, and capacities and incapacities which determine a person to a given class. This is not made up. Okay? So why would, again, the question as it pertains to status, why would you do something that previously was done by a foreigner on someone else's land, and now you are the national and you want to implement that process, calling it by that name on your ancestral estate? I fail to see the why this is being done. And I want some answers, and I want some answers ASAP. And so it goes on. While term implies relation, it is not a mere relation. It also means estate. Estate. Because it signifies the condition or circumstances in which one stands with regard to his property. So do you comprehend what that is saying? That is saying, as it pertains to this, if you say that you are a Moor, this is how I am perceiving it, based on my level of reading comprehension. And you're saying that you're the national, and you're standing on your ancestral estate based on your bloodline that goes all the way back to Moabites and Canaanites and way back beyond that. Moving forward, so I have a few questions here. that I have drafted up, and I would like very much to get some answers, and I'll share these with you. I would like to know the following, and I'm not going to read it all, but I'm just going to touch on a few key points. I'm of the mind, as a Moor, as a man in his 50s, that professional activity renders professional results. You can do things in a sloppy, unprofessional, unorganized fashion, or you can do things in a tidy, neat, professional, well-rehearsed, orderly manner, which breeds success, maximizes the use of your personnel, and also resources and things like that, because you have to communicate, and then you determine goals and so on and so forth, and then you figure out how you're going to function, what laws are out there, what's our how do we implement our creed, our culture, and all of these types of things. So I would like to know what processes were implemented that's applicable to Moors. Next, who are these people that are saying that they want to do these things? What are their qualifications? What websites do they own? What sort of activity have they been involved in? Caveat emptor, buyer beware. This is part of that process. These are the tools that you utilize throughout the world to determine whether Johnny or Susie is who she or he says they are. If you're going to be giving them resources, if you're going to be giving them manpower, if you're going to be putting them in the control of infrastructure, and you're going to give them the authority to make decisions on how that will affect and impact people's lives, you need to ask these questions. And if you can't see that, you don't need to be looking at this video. You need to be laying on somebody's couch. That's what you need to be doing. Have you or anyone working on bringing consular courts into fruition ever received any instrument issued by anyone or anything that issues titles, positions, rights, or privileges, etc. for the establishment of consular courts? That's something that needs to be asked. Now, I said previously, and I alluded to that, I just want to stick to the facts as part of this, video, and so I don't want to, get into too much of that stuff in this video. But certainly, you can see that there are many questions here that need to be, asked. One of them is that, are there any Moors who can share with us how consular courts are in accordance with Moors functioning in their proper person or as nationals? I need answers to these types of questions. These are just some of my questions and my concerns. And again, and I would say to the masses here before I close, is that if you have problems with those people who call themselves grand sheiks, or who work as part of any temple, and they have issues with you asking these types of questions, then I would tell you, you need to be very, very concerned. Okay? Caveat emptor, buyer beware. And as I close, I want to make a quick statement, and that is that you can generally tell from my experience, from my honest experience, from my time in the military, from my time on many jobs, is that Usually, you can tell how successful the business is going to be, or the company that you're working for, based on the leadership, based on decisions the leadership makes. Um, and so, because it all flows downhill from that point. And the same is going to be true with any Moorish institution. We're in a different day and we're in a different time now. We don't have the, rather, we have access to information, and we can make sound decisions that have been shown to go hand in hand with productivity, with success, with growth. And so we need to, again, use all these tools as we make our decisions. So if you see an institution, or you see a business, or you're applying for a job and you go there and you see certain things and you find out that they've been running for 20, 30, 40 years, you'll have a lot of answers right at your fingertips. All right. And in some cases, when you visit some of these locations, you'll be leaving. You should be leaving very soon and never communicating, with these types of people. And so I often wonder, what kind of internal moves these people are making. There are just so many strange things, but again, I'm not focusing on these types of questions for this video. I just wanted to really focus on the definitions, and ask these questions, whomever gets this, because sometimes I don't get answers from emails or phone calls. So I'm putting this out there for the record, and for others to share. Please, if you know of a situation historically where Moors, Muslims, or Moors acting as, in their proper person, embodying Islam, and lawful Moorish activity based on our culture, our creed, based upon how we do things sensibly, based upon how we respect other nations. I don't understand why this term was even utilized. And so please, I don't pretend to be a master. I don't pretend to, know it all. I'm just a simple Moor asking questions. And I would like, these folks who are implementing this process, to reach out to me and give me the answers that I desperately need. Islam, and I hope that everyone can get something out of this video, something positive, and that we can move forward from here. And I look forward, hopefully, to hearing from those who are going to be running consular courts. Is there an affiliation to the Great Seal National Association of Moorish Affairs? I want to know what websites you're affiliated with. I want to know, which bodies of Moors are involved in this. This is extremely important to me. And if it's not to you other Moors out there, then fine. I certainly hope that no one is going to attempt to tell me that that's none of my business. Well, no, it's a lot of my business. And if I have to break it down, then you don't need to be watching this video. You need to be doing something else. But at any rate, I think I have shared enough. And again, I want to learn. I want to know what's going on here. I want answers to these questions. And if after 10 days I have not received any answers from those individuals, well, then hopefully I will hear something from somebody else. that will shed some light on why these people are doing this. All right. And again, finally, I am not against having a body of Moors come together so that we can secure our rights and make sure that our rights and liberties are upheld and our ability to exercise them are upheld, and that we get proper remedy when dealing with other Moors as well as foreigners. So thank you for your time, and I really appreciate you, and I say Islam, peace.